Cross and different planets, and a very good afternoon to you. My name is Xan, and welcome to Your Green Voice. We talk about the environment every Thursday from 2 o'clock, but unlike Your Green Breakfast, its sister show, we give room here for guests to have a long chat about the environment. And as you heard in the previous hour with Professor Denise Baden, coming up with solutions, ideas, different ways of thinking, different ways of doing environmental campaigning through books, through plays, through citizens' assemblies. In this particular instance, we're going to be talking about citizen science, because our next guest has led a citizen science project in Southampton that records how often and how smelly the Portswood Pong is. These are the gases that come from the Southern Water Treatment Works on the banks of the River Itchen, just opposite Riverside Park. With a team of about 15 volunteers, all are recording the days and the time of the stench. He's put enough pressure on Southern Water to change their attitude from calling the cause of the Pong occasional institutes to doing everything they can to stop it. Joining us in the studio is Jan Krumins. Jan's a very good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hi, Xan. I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Do you think, though, it's a little bit unfair that the Pong has been named after Portswood?
Well, the plant that emanates the smell is called the Portswood Wastewater Treatment Works. It's actually at the top end of St Denis, sort of where St Denis, Portswood and Swathing all meet, and as you say, it's on the river, so it's right opposite Bitton Park. So all four of those districts are affected.
Yes, but the Portswood Pong actually has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Somebody's called it the itching stink, sort of rhymes with kitchen sink, but I don't like that because some people actually thought it was the mud that was making the smell. Can you believe that?
Well, I don't know. I have actually smelt some smelly mud,
yeah.
And of course, one childhood memory of smell was seaweed. When you go to the beach and there's seaweed, and it everybody thinks, oh, I'm on holiday now because I can smell not a brilliant smell of seaweed, but it's like, but it has a very holiday feel to it for me anyway.
Yeah.
But no, for something that's so smelly, mud couldn't produce that much.
No, we've got nice clean mud on the Itchen.
I must go and investigate. Get myself a good couple of hands and smell it. When did you first smell the Portswood Pong?
Well, I've lived in St Denis for 30 years, and in the past it was a thing that happened 3-4 times a year, and it would be pretty awful, but it would be over and done in a day. When they were changing tanks or whatever. But what we've found now is over the course of time, it's got worse and worse. They did this is Southern Water, did some work in 2019, and for a year or two, it seemed to be pretty good. But it's crept back more and more. So to a point where the year before last, me and my neighbours were all talking about how awful it is, you know, on a summer's afternoon, you want to sit out in the garden, chances are you're just enjoying yourself and over comes this horrible Pong and it ruins your afternoon.
When you say ruins the afternoon, do you have to go back inside?
Well, I've actually sat in the garden with incense sticks around me to try and hide it. Yeah, I mean, if you're having a barbecue with friends, I mean, it's just totally embarrassing. It does ruin the day. Sometimes it's just something you're aware of, and sometimes it's absolutely awful.
No, I can imagine that's a very frustrating thing. So, was it you or one of your friends who decided to do something about it?
Well, just along my stretch of Priory Road, just talking to my neighbours, we were all saying, you know, we ought to write to Southern Water, write to the CEO or whoever, because you could complain, and in those days I think you got a third-party call centre, and you'd make a complaint. They wouldn't really know what you were talking about, and that complaint just seemed to disappear into thin air. So, we're all saying, we ought to write a letter, a strong, a stiff letter on card, as they say. So, I thought, well, I can write a letter. I'll do it. So I wrote a letter on behalf of, 8 or 10 neighbours and myself. And one of them said, you ought to put that on Facebook, on the St Denis Rocks group, which is the sort of community Facebook page for St Denis. It's got lots of stuff on there. So I did. So I drafted the letter and put it on the St Denis Rocks Facebook page, asking for anybody who wanted to be a signatory to add their name to this letter. And in 24 hours, I had over 200 people giving me their name and address to sign that letter. So, then you start realising, it's not just you or just your street that are feeling the effects. And so, that was in the summer of 23, and I wrote that letter, and I got a polite reply eventually from Southern Water saying, yes, there has been a problem. They did work in 2019. They believe it's now better, but there is, hopefully plans for ongoing improvements to the site. So fairly bland letter, not really promising to do anything about it. And at that point, we had a little bit of publicity from the Meridian News and South Today and so on, and the Echo. And at that point, various people in the community started talking to our local councillors. That's John Savage, Catherine Barber, Marie Finn from the Portswood ward. What I realised was that all this sort of evidence of everybody feeling the effects was a bit circumstantial, was a bit hearsay, We're saying it's pretty frequent. Southern Water are saying it's occasional. So I thought, we've got to have some real numbers here. We've got to have some real data to pin this down. So I had the idea of setting up a little group of volunteers with the idea of having people at various locations, living or working in various locations all around the Portswood Wastewater Treatment Centre, so in St Denis, Swaithling, Woodmill, Bitton Park, and all points in between, so that people would just be able to say when they were smelling a pong, what time it was, what the date was, and very simple level 1, 2, or 3 from slight, moderate, and severe. And we used a WhatsApp group to do that. So it's just a WhatsApp group with all the volunteers are members, and people just record that very simple piece of information, and then I collate that into a spreadsheet, and that gives us our evidence.
You haven't got a printout there of your spreadsheet, have you? He has.
The spreadsheet itself is just rows of dates and people and locations. But then each month I summarise that into charts and a graph. So we started it early, well, just about a year ago. So we really got going about April last year. And some interesting things started appearing. It turns out that the smell is there more often than any one person might realise, because if you're in one location, if the wind is blowing from the sewage works to you, you'll probably get the smell. Another day the wind will be blowing the other way and somebody else is getting the smell. So when you put that together, the smell is present more days of the month than you might otherwise realise. And last summer, in June and August, we had I think something like 2/3 of the day, 20 days a month, somebody would be getting those emissions. So it's very wind dependent.
And reasonably severe as well, actually.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the other bit of data you got there as far as the whether it's severe, moderate, or...
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Oh, look at this. This is
Yes. A nice
Thank
bar chart. Boy.
Yes.
Yeah, and so as I say, the smell was most frequent in June and August of last year, but in terms of severity, July was the real killer. And however, it's there all of the year. It does drop off a little bit in the winter, but of course it's in the summer when you're out in your garden, when people have got their windows open. A lot of people have been saying, they're trying to sleep with their windows open, where it's making them feel sick or nauseous.
I can imagine.
So they have to shut the window.
That's actually worse than being in the garden, I think, because if you're trying to sleep and it's affecting your sleep, and you can't get away from it. If you're going to be either sweat because it's nice and you got the window shut and it's warm, or you have the window open, and that sounds horrible.
And of course, people are very concerned for their children. We've got one of our volunteers has got a child with disability and is very, very worried about the effect of this pollution on their health.
Do people at the plant, do you think they're used to it? Because that's why they don't think there's a problem. They're actually used to the smell. I mean, can you get used to a smell like that?
Probably you can a little bit. I mean, the people I've met from Southern Water who are local and work locally, they're quite ashamed of it and their company. The higher up you go, the more people more remote from it. But yeah, at a local level, the Southern Water employees are, as I say, quite ashamed of the situation.
Well, maybe it needs a name change. I mean, I'm thinking of a Southern Water Waft or something like that. Because it's because at the moment it's being pushed off onto Portswood's problem, and it's actually it is Southern Water.
Yeah.
When you show them this data, was there any more reaction from them?
Well, so at the early part of last summer, there were a number of meetings with Southern Water, led by the city council leader at the time, Satvir Kaur, who's now the Southampton Test MP, and John Savage, the Portswood councillor, and I think with some other people from the Environmental Agency and friends of the Itchen Estuary, who are concerned with the river water quality more than the air quality. They had some quite hard-hitting meetings with them, and this data was taken up by those officials into the meeting to hopefully hit Southern Water over the head, but certainly for Southern Water to acknowledge the problem. So that was primarily the first use of this data to give ammunition to those representatives of the community. And Southern Water at that point did fully admit there is a problem, which was an achievement, and also talked about remedial work that was to be carried out in August and September of last year to alleviate the smell, which I believe they did. And in fairness, there was a bit of a dip in the number of incidents reported throughout the autumn and early winter. But as of this year, the number is already rising quite strikingly.
Well, I mean, compared to the previous January?
Yeah.
February.
And so far this month, we've had 13 days as of today, and we've had 8 of those where we've had a smell. We've only had 5 smell-free days this month. Right. So it's rising. Obviously, people are still mainly inside, and it's very cold. But if it reaches the level of last summer this year, I think there's going to be a lot of very angry people.
I think you're right. And although having said that, I've spent a certain amount of time, a couple of moments within St Denis recently. Haven't smelt anything.
No.
Drove down Thomas Lewis Way today. Didn't smell anything.
Yeah.
So, but I do smell it. Yeah. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's while you were talking just now, I was thinking maybe that explains why there's no estate agents in Bishop Park Triangle or something. Because it must be hard. You know, you're probably praying for a good day when you're showing someone a house. You know, it's but we shouldn't laugh about this. It is very serious because it's a horrible smell. I have lived next to a water treatment work before, and it's not fun. It's not fun. You just hope for a westerly breeze, because then in that particular instance that blew it away to someone else. You know.
Well, in fairness, if the prevailing wind is southwesterly, I think Bitton Park gets it as much as St Denis. But of course, the point is, Woolston used to be pretty notorious for its smell with the treatment works down on the shore, down near Western Shore, and they've been upgraded. That Southern Water have built a big plant. I don't know if you've seen it from the river. It's sort of shiny, steel, space age looking plant, and the situation there is vastly improved. So, of course, the question is, if they can do it in Woolston, why can't they do it in St Denis?
Yes.
And if I can widen the topic slightly, of course, Friends of the Itchen Estuary, I don't know if you're aware of the organisation. They work with Surfers Against Sewage, and they monitor the bacteria in the Itchen very closely, and it's off the charts, and that is primarily, undoubtedly, from the Portswood treatment works that's causing that. And so if that plant was upgraded, you know, that would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And so I think it was built, I don't know when it originates from, but I don't think it's really been changed greatly since, you know, the middle of the last century, and it's even older than that. So in those days, it served a smaller population, and in the last 5 years or so, the Portswood population has actually expanded greatly with so many student blocks. Nothing against students, bless them, but you know, that there is it's not just houses being repurposed for students. There's probably 2,000 extra bods in the catchment area.
Yeah, and I think they're bringing in waste as well, don't they, for treatment? I think.
Do they?
Yes, I think they do. Yeah. Yes, it's not just
they have some very smelly lorries.
Yes, but
I'm not
yes,
quite sure
exactly.
what they do.
So it's no. There's a variety of reasons why there's stuff going in there. I think we're going to take this up in the next part of the show. Continue talking to Jan about this, and because he's got a request, and in fact, if you're feeling enthused and you actually live in that area and want to be part of the group, we're going to give you details on how to join and how can you be part of this citizen science project that is to remove the pong from Portswood and give everyone a really pleasant summer as soon as we can. So that's all coming up on Your Green Voice on Southampton's Voice FM.
Southampton's Voice.
Voice FM.
On sunny Southampton's Voice FM, that is Toby Lee and Count on Me, excuse me. My name's Xan, this is Your Green Voice, a sister show to Your Green Breakfast. Every morning at 7 o'clock we bring you a breakfast that is full of environmental news, along with the usual sport and showbiz. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. And various other items to keep you entertained as you journey either into work or make the family's breakfast. But our guest right now is talking about the Portswood Pong. His name is Jan Krumins. In the previous part of the show, he told us how his citizen science project gestated from just a conversation in the garden on a very pongy day to actually gathering together 15 people or so to record the pong, the strength of the pong, the place of the pong, and then put it together just send it in a message in a WhatsApp group. But he's looking for more people. Now, Jan, here's your opportunity. What kind of people are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for anybody with just a tiny amount of time that lives in Bitton Park, St Denis, Portswood, Swaithling, Woodmill, those areas. If you think of a sort of circle around the sewage works at Portswood opposite the Riverside Park. And so if you've ever been aware of this Portswood Pong in your garden or as you're going out on the street, you might think about being a volunteer. There's no commitment at all. If you're not around, if you're on holiday or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to collect whatever data we can. So we have a few people in each area, so there's usually somebody to cover it. We don't need hundreds of people, but we could certainly do with more people, particularly in the Bitton Park area or that sort of area heading towards Swaithling near the Brook Inn or the roads leading up to the university. Those sort of areas, Woodmill areas, and really, it's very easy. It won't take any time at all. You join the WhatsApp group when you smell something. You state what time of day it was and the level of 1, 2, or 3. 1 is, oh yeah, I can smell that. 2 is, and 3 is, ugh. So it really is just time. 1, 2, and 3. And if you happen to be somewhere else other than your sort of normal home or work location, you can put that in as well if you've smelt the smell somewhere else. Shall I give you a phone number?
I can read out the number for you.
Please.
It's Jan's telephone number is 07989 408 335. You probably say it a completely different way, but 07989 40 83 35 40 83 35. And there's an email address, info987. That's info987 at techie.com, and techie is spelled Techie. That's Techie. Info 987 at techie.com. If you want to become a collector of information, a Pong sniffer, not spotter, isn't it?
I call them monitors.
A Pong monitor, Pongmon. Yes, if you'd like to become a Pong monitor, then we'll give the number in a moment. You can get a pen and paper handy. We'll give you 5 minutes to zoom around wherever it is you are, or even get your phone out and take it in notes, or put it straight into the into your WhatsApp. And do you think this? Actually, I was curious. How far away has the smell been smelled?
Oh, down to Beavis Valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and on the Bitton side down to the sort of railway bridge that crosses the Itchin.
Yeah, that's a fair
near Bitton station.
Yeah, that's a large patch of people. So it's what I don't know size wise, 40,000, 30,000 people.
Could be, yeah. I mean, it's geographically, it's almost dead centre of Southampton. The Portswood area. So yes, it would be a lot of people.
We've got I don't think it's on this. No, that's the north. We've got behind us. We've got a very nice picture of Southampton, but it's Northern Bridge is right in the centre. So it would be
about where the O is.
About where the O is in voice. Yes, our logo is covering it. Roughly there. Okay.
Zan, could I just give a shout out to the volunteers that we
yes, these are the heroes.
The heroes.
Yes, that's what we should call them. Heroes.
Yeah. So a big thank you to Aggie, Anne, Brenda, Christine, Deb, Ian, Kay, Oscar, Phil, Claire and Mike. Thank you all so much. You really are making a difference.
That's brilliant.
And I think I've got you some new listeners. Claire has...
hopefully all 15.
No, Claire has, I think, pointed out that this interview is happening to the Highfield Residents Association, who are... interested in this, and so actually if you're in Highfield and you get the smell, then perhaps you could become a monitor too.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christine, and thank you everyone in the Highfield Residents Association. I really appreciate you listening to Jan and this show. Are you actually environmentally active, or is this the only thing you've ever done that's been a sort of
the people involved are not activists or hardened campaigners. We're just residents, consumers at the mercy of Southern Water, bill payers, concerned about our families. So I personally, I have worked with Friends of the Itchin Estuary just as a volunteer, hauling out samples of water on a couple of days off of the Cobden and Northern bridges, which was quite fun. But I'm not involved in any environmental organisations otherwise.
Yeah, it's actually, I remember in our previous conversation when you mentioned the Friends of the Itchin Estuary and them sampling the water. And it's the pollution in the river is very serious. But when you think of human beings, we very rarely spend any time in the water as such, but we spend a lot of time in the air. I mean, enormous amount of time in the air.
Some days I've tried to give that breathing, but it just doesn't work.
It doesn't. Well, no. I mean, I went to a meeting once, so they were talking to us about. I can't remember the reason why he said this, but he said, "How long can you go without food?" And some people say maybe 2, 3, 4 days without food. He said, "How long can you go without water?" Well, a certain amount of time, but maybe a day to a day and a half. How long can you go without air? Right, not very long. It's absolutely essential to a human being's life. And we have got such disregard for our air. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I mean, some people have said, oh, well, you live near a sewage plant. What do you expect? But if I could just tell you a little anecdote. About 18 months ago, me and my partner Anna went on holiday in Italy. And we went to Puglia, which is the very southern tip, if you think of Italy as a boot, it's the heel of the boot. So really quite south. Earlier in the year, it had been 40 degrees there, and while we were there, it was 28, 30 every day. And we were in this lovely little Airbnb, and we went for a walk one afternoon, sort of down a lane, through past olive groves and so on. And then up ahead of us was a sort of chain link fence. And sort of wondered, what's that? Got up to it, and we found we were looking down on a sewage plant. And you could see, sort of brown effluent being pumped around furiously. But even sort of, overlooking it, we couldn't smell hardly a thing, So it can be done, The technology is there these days to treat wastewater without polluting the air all around for half a mile in every direction. Again, the Woolston plant that's been totally upgraded is far better. So it's really down to Southern Water to step up, cure the air pollution, cure the river pollution. I'm sure they'll feel a lot better in themselves when they've done that.
I'm sure they would, and I think everyone in the area would be very grateful. A lot of gratitude going towards them, because that river is very important. It has salmon spawning in it.
Yeah.
It has the eels, the Sargasso eels as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both two culturally significant species, aquatic species, and which is something I think Southampton definitely does forget about. There should be trout and salmon ceremonies or festivals or celebration. I was thinking the other day we sort of enact that walk again, which is walking down the Itchen to celebrate them going off to sea.
Yes,
it's wave them on their way.
Yeah,
good luck. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
But I did. There was Councillor Savage was in, and he was talking that maybe the count of fish going up the river was very low this year. I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah.
But lower than you'd expect.
Oh, that's terrible. Right?
It is.
Well, you consider, that salmon pool at Wood Mill, that's sort of part of that activity centre nowadays. That was built 1,000 years ago, dug out by the monks of St Denis Priory. And it's so obviously, those salmon have been going up and down the river since time immemorial. Is it going to be our generation that finishes them off? That would be tragic.
Well, yes is the answer to that at the moment, because of the way we're continuing. And the thing is, we're complaining about this, okay? But we've got a treatment works. 80% of the world's sewage goes straight in. Okay, so we're irritated about what's happening here, but in 80% of the world, it just goes straight in. All the waste, municipal waste and everything.
Yeah.
So we're going a bit irritated here, but in other places, it is just there is no treatment whatsoever. And if you think about it, if you do a rough calculation, it's like 20 billion flushes a day or something going straight in, based on 80% of the world's population, maybe 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, And I know the oceans are big, but they're struggling. They really are struggling. And it's water pollution, strange enough, is the one thing that we all seem to get behind.
Yes.
No matter what political persuasion you are, no matter whether you're green or not green, water pollution is the thing that people get most concerned about.
Yeah. Well, it's such a necessity, isn't it? It's the necessity of life.
It's also, in some respects, our ancestral homeland.
Oh, I don't remember that far back.
We came from the sea. We are sea. You and I were 80% water as well. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
It's like we are water. It's this whole thing is just very frustrating. But as we said earlier, the air pollution, we spend most of our time in the air, feet on the ground. But I think what you and your team are doing is absolutely fantastic. You should be applauded, because this is something, it is so simple but so effective. It's just a little bit of noting, a little bit of a message, you doing your data, and then you can provide something to Southern Water to say, look, by the way, that's what we've spotted. Okay, you might be used to the pong, but we're not. And what are you going to do about it?
I think that's one of the important things here is that it's a lot of people, or quite a few people, doing a little bit each, rather than one person trying to sort everything out themselves. You know, it's that combined effort of people in different locations, you know, different times of day, all monitoring that situation that builds up the strength of the data and proves a bigger point and a bigger picture.
So let's give out that number again.
Okay.
You might be listening to this, you might be excited, you might be thinking, yes, I want to be a small part of this big movement to de-pong Portswood and Bitten Park Triangle and St Denis and Swaveling and possibly Highfield and further other places. The telephone number is 07989 4083335. That's 07899.
No.
You do it. No, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'll do it.
Okay.
07989 4083335.
Haha, yes, I'll do it.
Okay, and there's an email address, info987@techie.com, techie.com.
Thanks.
And you can send Jan Krumins a WhatsApp message.
Well, just send a text with that phone number. Just send me a plain text, and then I'll, if you want to volunteer, and then I'll invite you into the WhatsApp group. As I say, it really is simple. It won't take up hardly any of your time.
Yeah, be part of a bigger movement. That's fantastic. Jan, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate this. It's very heartening, enlightening, and uplifting as well, I think is the right expression. And we wish you a great green weekend.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. My pleasure.
Pong-free one as well.
Yeah. Let's hope.
Southampton's Voice FM.